anytime a teacher comes forth, that person needs to work within particular culture, not just culture of the society he or she is in, but also a culture, a metaphorical culture. So, for example, why Modern Seers is a wisdom tradition is that we are respectful and also indebted to many teachers who came before us. So never ever we are against great teachers of the past. In fact, we encourage people to study those as much as needed, because there are lots of people who knew what they were talking about in the past, as there were lots of people in the past who didn't know what they were talking about. And wisdom tradition is about teaching people to know the difference. Well, any wisdom tradition is really about training you to respond to the present moment, in the present. And that requires a certain kind of training which has to be specific to every single generation. It's the same training in spirit that has been done for hundreds and thousands of years in the past. But every generation brings new issues, new needs, and new questions. These new questions are actually old questions, but they're cloaked in the new form, new language, new culture, which is natural because the new generation is born in a new environment. So wisdom tradition, by its nature, has to reinterpret old teachings in a new way. If it doesn't reinterpret them, these teachings will turn stale. In fact, they will not turn stale, they have already turned stale. So that's why any wisdom tradition has to be brought forth by a teacher who is alive today rather than dead yesterday. So you can read about how great masters of the past moved, but to really become wise, part of a wisdom tradition yourself, become wise, you have to engage a teacher now who is alive rather than not. And that teacher will help you understand your questions and help you discover your own answers. Any true teacher will not shove his answers or her answers down your throat, because a spiritual path and any proper wisdom tradition is the same thing as the spiritual path. You have to discover your own answers. If you are not let to discover your own answers in a gross way, like most religious traditions do, they shove their answers down your throat. Some of these traditions introduce subtle ideologies. So any kind of pushing of their own answers rather than letting you discover your own answer is not a wisdom tradition, really. So because of this, wisdom tradition is by definition is passionate, based on who you are, based on expressing who you really are, based on you finding out what your path is. Now, you should ask in this situation, why should I join the effort of Modern Seers if I have my own path? That's a very important question. You join a group of people when you express your own way, because that group of people is closely resembling what you want to do yourself. So you travel together. It's kind of like flying from New York to LA. You're not on the airplane because you love all these people. Well, you may love them, but you're not on the airplane because of them. You just have the same destination. And you have a choice. You can be friendly to them or not. And we prefer friendly people who want to jump on our airplane, which is moving in a certain direction. And that direction is defined by our intention. So if you come to us, one of the things you need to Study is whether our intention and your intention are the same. And then you jump on the airplane and fly with us. Every generation calls forth new answers to new questions. And right now, in the United States, we have a situation where idiotic ideas, dogmas, are beginning to become unnaturally prominent. So what really should be discussed by a very, very small number of people, preferably in insane asylums, is now discussed as normal ideas by the culture. But more so, young people are very tired of all of these dogmatic, limited ideas which are coming dangerously out in the open. And what we represent, we would like to make a definitive statement that people need to move towards being rational, towards being sane, towards being spiritual, rather than being insane, irrational, and religious. And it's important because we have real problems which are being created by human beings and some by nature, which we need to solve. And solving them based on some 2,000, 3,000-year-old scripture is idiotic. And claiming that someone who is rational and educated and smart, that these people are dangerous, is exceedingly stupid. The world should belong to people who are educated, smart, and capable and competent, rather than the opposite. One thing I'm going to mention is that we are not against religious people or uneducated people or not so smart people. It's just everyone needs to be in a position where they're competent. So someone who is a competent plumber or competent sweeper, that's great. But they do not have the education or the intellect for governance or spiritual leadership. And just because someone cannot discern whether they're competent or not, that it doesn't give them the right or the privilege of leading people astray, which is exactly what we see right now. And wisdom tradition, in my humble opinion, is what should produce leaders who are capable of making real decisions. One of the problems with democratic governments is that it is only 1 or 2 steps better than dictatorships. You know, in the dictatorships, you're almost assured to have an idiot leader. And the 20th century have seen plenty of those. From Stalin to Hitler, on and on and on and on we can talk. McCarthyism in the United States was a great example of idiocy in a civilized world. Hitler came to power through election in one of the smartest countries on the planet, the country which produced probably more intellectuals and great scientists than any other, the German nation. So we are lacking wisdom big time. So what Modern Seers calls is infusion of some kind of criteria that leaders need to be able to lead. How we do this, that's not our business really, because we're a spiritual organization, not a political organization. But we need to develop smart, spiritually smart leaders in every part of society, in science, in culture, in politics, in spiritual religious organizations, in charities, you name it. The person who leads these organizations has to be wise and competent. And we need to figure out a way how to ensure that. And that is the new call for the new generation. The democracy doesn't work very well. We see it all the time. It works way better than anything else we have seen. So, sure, someone will say, Anatole, Modern Seers people, are you against democracy? Hell no. We are for democracy if we compare democracy to what we have had before. But we're not stupid. We can realize that democracy doesn't work very well. Not anymore. So we need to figure out something new. Do we have a solution? Not yet. But we can see the problem when we see the problem.